Welcome, Claudine. It's fantastic to be here again for the launch of our ClimateReady Index.
Thanks, David. It is. Doesn't time fly? It's been 3 years already that we've been doing the index.
Absolutely. And the index, of course, looks across the G7 and Ireland, those big global economies, and it's vital that they are getting climate ready. And by climate ready, when we're thinking about the index, we're talking about emissions and mitigation, but we're also talking about adaptation and resilience and the economies that we all live and work in, and our communities too. It really is a holistic index, so we're delighted to be sharing it again.
Absolutely. And it's so important for our business. Both climate change and biodiversity is really important for the insurance sector. We've, as Aviva, have always felt we've got a voice in this space, but we know we can't do it on our own. So that's why it's really good for us to understand how different countries are doing, particularly countries where we have a presence in Canada, for example, or Ireland and in the UK. But we want UK to be the most climate-ready large economy by 2030. That's our aim. So, David, you developed the index in the first instance. It's been 3 years. What do you think are the trends that you're seeing?
Well, I think it's really encouraging that what we've seen is, whether it's at the bottom of the index or the top, people are making progress. And 3 years is probably a good length of time to be able to judge that. That is genuinely encouraging, because you hear a lot of negative news around this agenda. But the fact is, people are putting in place much more progressive policies at a country level. We're seeing the concern amongst the general public continue to remain high right across all of the markets. And really encouragingly, we're starting to see businesses take more action themselves to not just protect their interests for now, but also look at the amazing green growth opportunities that there are. Certainly we're seeing those in the UK. And that's also a great opportunity to tackle the social side of this too, to spread those opportunities, to equalise out some of those growth and economic benefits across countries like the UK. So I think we're seeing a lot of positive news, as well as, of course, the underlying message of we have to go further and we have to go faster. But we've seen it can be done.
Yes, some really good examples. So Germany is still at the top, but because they've put the right regulations in place, they are putting money behind those regulations. They've put £4 billion to tackle this and put the actions forward that they want to see. So I think that's really good, and that's an example that we can take and probably try and replicate in other places. I mean, US still at the bottom, but actually with the Inflation Reduction Act, they are doing quite a lot in this space, particularly on the growth of the renewable energy side, and even some adaptation, because it's impacting them so much with the wildfires, with extreme weather. They are starting to think about that as well. Less so about nature.
One of the really encouraging areas is business, where we've seen over this 3-year period a significant growth, not just in the concern that businesses have around climate change, but actually meaningful, tangible plans. So half of businesses now have a climate change plan to reduce their emissions. That's fantastic. But I'm also noticing that more and more businesses are investing in adapting to the changes that the climate will bring to their business, getting resilient, planning for that now so they can secure the long-term success of the business. So since 22, when we started this, 17% more organisations have adaptation plans for their operations, and 21% more now have plans for their supply chain. So I think we're starting to get it. And as that demand builds for business action through the supply chain, through investors like Aviva, this should help us with the transition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really encouraging to see that. I think that for the first time in my career, actually seeing the rubber hit the road and those actions and real things happening on the ground, as opposed to let's set another target, is about what we should be really, really focusing on as countries, as businesses, to be able to tackle climate change. But as you said earlier, it's got to happen faster, and it's got to get much, much bigger than it is.
And it is going to take all of us. So it's about businesses playing our part. But I think we're still seeing, in terms of consumers making their own lifestyle decisions, it's strong, but not really growing. People considering it in their purchasing decisions. 40% of people saying they're definitely doing that, but that's still not hitting that tipping point that we need. I personally don't think we need to blame the consumer for that. It's about what can we do at a government level, at a business level, at a community level to make these choices easy and help people understand the long-term benefits and start to see the upside, the growth opportunities of facing into the climate challenge.
Absolutely. And we've done this, you know, as governments and as businesses in the past. Stopping smoking was an interesting one, wasn't it? We had regulation come in to say you can't smoke in places where it's for public, and suddenly it just all switched. So I think we need more examples like that we can have regulation behind, but then also businesses also have an impact and understand their role that they're going to play, and then we just go and get on with it. That's what we need.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that in what you'll see in the report this year, if people look at that, is actually some really great examples that we've pulled out of where either at a government, a business or a community level, people are actually acting now and starting to feel the benefits for themselves, whether that's 100% water treatment in Germany, protecting against some of the issues around clean water and sewage that we've seen in other places, whether that's communities taking action in places like New York around heat challenges, which is a big part of this, or businesses carving out whole new market niches, tapping into green growth opportunities. So yeah, lots of reasons to be hopeful. There's a theme here in the report this year around nature and adaptation that we've chosen to really spotlight. Why are those things so important when it comes to climate readiness?
Nature impacts all our businesses and all our lives. If you think about pharmaceuticals, if you think about food that we eat, everything around us is really, really dependent on nature. And those supply chains are very, very dependent on nature. I won't talk about that today because that's a huge topic. But actually, from a mitigation perspective, nature is a sink for carbon and has been naturally for many, many years. Unfortunately, we've taken that sink away by needing land to do other things. So restoring those bits of nature, which at Aviva we have funded to do in the UK with recreation of the temperate rainforests, things like protecting our peatlands, those sorts of things become really important because they are going to be the carbon sinks. And without nature, there is no net zero. So I think the other thing that nature delivers for us is more on the adaptation side. Again, nature is a natural way to deal with things like flood risk, which we are doing across the UK. Again, we're working with the wildfowl and wetland trusts to recreate salt marshes, for example. Salt marshes, they grow quite quickly, and they are a natural way to protect ourselves from flood risk. And those are the sorts of things that I think nature can bring as well as health for us. People like being in nature and being a part of that. And there have been many studies to say that is really good for our health, both our mental health and our physical health. So we need to get the UK ready for all of these impacts that are to come in terms of climate change. I really do believe we can do it. I think it will be fantastic if we can deliver that.